Hi, everybody. Amanda, this is Kevin
Hi there.
with A. Smith Gallery, and we're here today to talk about story. We did the story call for entry in 2022. Kevin was the juror, and he's also Franklin Cincinnatus, who wrote the story.
You just gave the secret away.
I did get the secret away.
Golly.
Anyway, he selected 55 images, and we narrowed those down, like we always do, to 27 for our book. So I thought I'd take this time to show you what the book looks like. This is the slip case, and here's the book of the 27. And that's what it looks like on the inside. So there's a story to go with each of these 27 images that are in here. And there's a lot more cool stuff in there too, right?
Yeah.
You have a statement and
Oh, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff.
It's really nicely done. Jace Graff with Cloverleaf Studios in Austin makes the books.
That's right.
So we have we've done, this is the fourth of the readings.
Mhm.
We've done 3 previously, and so this is number 4, and we have 3 stories for this reading. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let me
Okay.
put first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that entered, and it was an honor to write stories for these great images.
They provide a lot of inspiration for Franklin.
That's right. And the criteria was, I just picked the images that I thought would make the best story. So that's the way that went. And I want to thank you for allowing us to spend some time down on the Texas coast, because we went down there to finish up the stories. So we spent 5 days down there, which was good. Should I have said that?
That's fine.
Okay.
But you need to do a screen share
Oh, yeah,
first.
we got a screen share.
So our first image here, as soon as he gets it pulled up, there it is. Almost there, almost there. Ah. All right,
Working.
it is working.
Okay.
All right, go for it.
So the title of this story is Congo Square by Sarah Treanor. The bouncers, both female, wore the blue sleeveless tunic of the Mousquetaires de Roy, with a white embroidered cross in the center and coarse white trim. They stood at either side of the entry to D'Artagnan's Hideaway, a sports bar on Esplanade, at the edge of the New Orleans French Quarter. It was a late August evening, hot, humid, with the odor of rancid beer and sweating humanity creeping, blown by the light breeze from Bourbon Street. The Saturday night mix of jazz and rock had the cast iron of the buildings vibrating with musical lagniappe. The centuries-old Creole architecture telling things. A drum circle in the Marigny started with a shout. Marie Leday sat on the curb in front of the bar. Hearing the faint drums, she traced Congo Square in the grime of the street with the toe of a ravaged high-top tennis shoe. Her army surplus green canvas knapsack open at her side, a hard pack of Marlboros and a Schlitz tall boy showing, protein bars, notebooks, and some paperbacks. Not a fraying silk rose, a wooden rosary taped to the front of the knapsack with duct tape, no written in large faded black letters on the tape. Marie was always told she was cute. She was small and muscular, not unattractive to boys or men. Fair-skinned, freckled, with light brown hair, she was a cheerleader in both junior high and high school. Her senior year, she enthusiastically and joyfully cheered, as she always had, until she discovered that she was a Creole, not white or black. Her mother had kept it from her. One Sunday, she was introduced to a cousin from Baton Rouge with very dark skin and the hair of Africa. That night, she dreamed of Congo Square. Marie had skateboarded and smoked pot and made out in Congo Square. She had never really thought about its importance or the ghosts there. She went to the library and read the history of the place. It became her obsession. She would go and sit in the park and write and sketch in her notebooks, imagining slaves dancing and drumming and singing and marrying, and the women selling colish cakes. She confided in a friend that it was her family place now. She quit school. From Congo Square by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Great. And I love this image.
Thank you.
It's really amazing. And I love your story.
Yeah, I shouldn't have thanked you for that.
It's okay. So next.
So we have The Morrigan by Sharon Covert. And here we go. The streets of Washington were fine for walking on that unusually warm March evening in 1861. Mrs. O'Hanlon sat at her window watching for her slave, Esther, to return from the 4th Street market. Mr. O'Hanlon was suffering mighty from the grip. Esther was knowledgeable of the aromatic herbs necessary to provide him comfort. The O'Hanlon home was a simple 2-story Georgian townhouse with the classically elliptical covered porch, held up by clumsily carved Ionic columns. Mr. O'Hanlon, a Protestant Irish, was scandalized when he was told the meaning of the egg and dart motif of the cornice. Mrs. O'Hanlon convinced him that no one would think ill of him as a result. Washington was lousy with varying degrees of classical decoration. Noticing Esther coming up the street, Mr. O'Hanlon also spotted a very tall, lanky gentleman walking about 20 paces behind her. His gait was loose and uneven, his long arms and large hands fixed at his side. Esther dropped one of her packages. The tall man quickened his pace and bent to help her gather up the various spilled vegetable curatives. Thanking him, Esther stood and watched him walk away, turning east towards Lafayette Park. Running into the house, she excitedly exclaimed over and over, "That be Mr. Lincoln, that be Mr. Lincoln." Mrs. O'Hanlon, whose allegiances were mostly with the South, roughly grabbed Esther's cargo and walked, shaking her head, to the kitchen. The tall gentleman continued on into the park, a dark night descending. His countenance stern and his bushy eyebrows gathered, worried yet determined. War was imminent. He could no longer avoid the fated meeting with the Moore Rio gang. Spotting her standing with a lantern, her song crackling and rough, flirtatious and captivating. She attempted to seduce him back into the blackness. He hesitated, then responded there was no need to consummate the moment. He was preparing for war. She hissed and laughed. She turned, the moon reflecting off the graphite black of her plumage, the lantern casting her grotesque shadow against the hedges, the undulating image of a dark, wicked raven. From The Morrigan by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Thank you. That was great.
All right.
And thank you, Sharon. That's a great image.
Yes, it is.
And last but not least.
Last but not least, Butthead Goes to War. The image is by Eric Edge. Matthew Brady's daguerreotype studio was at 625 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C. He had moved the studio from New York to Washington in 1849. He photographed many notables during the over 30 years of his practice there, including Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Walt Whitman, Robert E. Lee, and many others. Yet his most notorious and endlessly debated image is his 1863 photograph of possibly the first superhero, Butthead. The Civil War was raging. The disastrous Battle of Chancellorsville had just concluded. The bloody Northern victory at Gettysburg was months away. Union Secretary of War Edward Stanton searched for a secret weapon. Giuseppe Marchetti, an Italian immigrant from the Abruzzo region of Italy, a tanner by trade, helped out occasionally at his cousin's 7th Street tobacco shop, rolling cigarettes, a novelty, for most tobacco was smoked in a pipe or rolled rough into stogies and cheroots. For thousands of years, tannins derived from tree bark and animal dung had been used to tan leather. After 1840 in America, chromium salts were used. It was not known then that continued direct exposure to chromium salts can cause the alteration of human DNA. Of course, Giuseppe Marchetti was not aware of the hazard. He could not explain why his hands would suddenly combust with no harm to himself, but destructive or dangerous when reading the paper or folding a blanket. Eventually, he could not look at himself in a mirror when in El Incendio, as he called it. Secretary Stanton frequented the 7th Street tobacco shop. He was fond of the new cigarettes. Quite unexpectedly, he found his secret weapon. Fires were to become frequent in Richmond, Atlanta, Chattanooga, and Mobile. From Butthead Goes to War by Franklin Cincinnatus. Image by Eric Edge.
Well, those were great. They were all great. There's links on our website to the other 3 readings as well as this one. You want to stop that, Sharon?
I did.
So Just want to thank everybody for listening.
Thank you for listening. And everybody that participated with their photographs, thank y'all for entering.
And there is a new call for entry calls story.
But this time only 3 stories.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Well, thank
everybody.
you very much.
Really good to see you.
Yeah.
Adios.
Bye-bye.